Yes, morning everyone. We start with third module is network analysis. In yesterday's class, we actually left the discussion at the point is wherein we had mentioned that project can be represented in the form of network. Why? Because each of the activities in the project is interrelated. That is the reason. What happen is uh, that is the reason the project is usually represented in the form of network. Okay, so today we will see what are the different rules when or drawing the network or developing a network diagram, and we'll try to see what is the importance of network analysis, the project management. So this is important for the project management perspective. Okay, so yesterday we have defined what is the definition of network analysis as well as project, and also we have written what applications of network analysis. Is that right? try to start. Okay, so before we start with the network diagram, uh, basic concepts which we are supposed to understand about the network analysis. Correct. So first one is network analysis actually consists of arrows and boards forms network. Okay. So two things are there. The network diagram. One is arrow as arrow represents the activities. Right? Arrow represents the activity, while node represents. So just make a note as I'm writing it on the whiteboard. Note of all these points. Node represents the start or end of the activity. Or we have to say that node represents end of. No, I think this is not required. So this is sufficient. It actually represents the start or the end of an activity. Okay. Just make note of this particular point. Now let us assume that there is one activity A. Okay. Yes. So there is one activity, that is activity A. Let us assume that that activity is hiring of employees. Hiring employees. Okay. So how do we represent this activity in the network diagram? Is the next question. Okay. Activity A is hiring employees. Let us assume that this is just an example. Just make note of this. Okay. So how do we represent hiring employees activity, the network diagram? Activities are represented in the form of arrow. Okay. And we name activity, that is hiring activity, as activity A. This is the starting point of the activity and this is the ending point of the activity. Okay. So one represents start of activity A is hiring employees. Okay. And node 2 represents, okay, end of this activity. All right. And the arrow represents activity A. Okay, so there are three different aspects here. One is the starting point, this is the ending point, and this is activity A. That is, this complete line represents the activity A. And here, one more thing to remember is that the length of the arrow doesn't matter. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether the length of the arrow is more or less, because it doesn't represent anything. Just make note of this. So I think one more point you can just add. Length of the arrow does not have any significance. Okay, there is no significance. There is no importance given to the length of the arrow. All right, so you can make note of this. That I think probably I could not complete the last statement. The last statement. There's nothing. The length of the arrow does not have any significance. Okay. Just make note of this. Then we will go. So I hope this is clear to everyone. If there is any doubts, you can ask. You can unmute yourself and you can ask the question. Okay. So I hope. Okay. Thank you. Yes. In case if you have made note of this, we'll just go ahead. So this is how you actually represent each and every activity in the network. Okay. All right. So next is the rules for drawing network. So what are the different rules here? So as I said just a minute before, length of arrow does not have significance. First, this is the first activities are represented using their start and end node. For example, okay, activity A can be represented as 1-2. Okay, activity A can be represented as 1-2. 1 is the starting node, and 2 is the ending node. I think possibly we'll make it clear. If anyone has any doubts, you can stop and you can ask. One is start. That means activity starts at node 1. 2 is the ending node. The activity finishes at node 2. Is it fine? Anyone has any doubts here? So this is how we. So when you write the problem definition, you'll be writing it as 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, so on and so on. Using that, you have to identify the activities start and ending. Just make note of all this. Okay. So in case if it is done, just go ahead. Please stop me if I'm writing it a little bit fast. I will not make out. I cannot make out if anyone is not able to follow. If anyone wants any notes and if I'm going fast, you can just tell, because all the notes, whatever I'm writing here, it is being stored. Okay. So this is done. Next rule. This is the next rule. Uh, each activity has only one start and end node. Okay. So it is not that activity has two different starting nodes. A starting point of the activity should be only one, and similar is the ending node. When the ending point should be the same. Ending point should be single. It should not be two different. Okay, so these are the different rules which we are supposed to understand before we start the network diagram. If there is any doubts, you can ask. Okay, so if you do not have any questions, go ahead. Start by solving one of the problems. Okay, so you can write example 1. Or else start with the new page. Usually remember that operation research problems are to have patience solving this, but it is simpler. Okay, so here, example 1. activity dash description for each of the activity. That means what that activity stands for, and even the duration. Duration is possibly duration is okay. So duration is in days. Now we have to describe what each activity stands for. Then we have to sorry, dash 5. 3 dash 6 dash dash 7. The last one is 7 dash 10. These are the different activities. 1, 2, 3, 8 different activities. Now define each of what each of the activities stands for. First, organize. First activity, organize the. I do not have much space. Duration is duration in days. Okay, that happens to be the first activity. Second activity, sales. How many days it is take? 4 days of time to hire all the sales per salesman. Next is train those sales. 7 days. Next, once the training is done, so once the selling training is done, the selling of the product starts. Correct. Takes another 3 months. That is their expected time. Expected time is 3 days. Once this is done, 1-3. 1-3 is uh, Okay, just one correction here. You can just make one correction. This 1-3 activity, you don't require this. Okay. So start with 3-6 activity. So I hope I'm making it clear. So just erase 1-3 activity. That is not required. We'll start with 3-6. So next, select advertise agency. Okay. So for this selection, how many days are being considered, or how many days? Only 2 days. In 2 days, the selection of advertising agencies will be done. Next, 6-7. 6-7. Plan advertising campaign. Plan advertise campaign. For this, how many days are being considered? Okay. Next, that is the last activity. Once that is done, planning the advertising campaigns are being done. Correct. So once this is done, one more corrections. Make this as 7-4. 7-4 conduct of advertise. That means conducting of advertise campaign. Conducting of advertising campaign will take another 10 days. Okay. So this is the complete project list of activities which the project manager wish to, or the project owner wish to do. Correct. So if you have to see, if we have to list all the activities, we have to get the consent, or we have to have the repeated meetings, and we should know which comes after. Correct. So in order to know the sequence of the activities, we may have to have different number of meetings. Correct. So these are the list of activities. Just make note of this. Then go about it. Now the question statement is, what is the question for the network? So this is the complete project. Okay. Right from the inception of the sales office until the completion of sales. Okay, until the completion of the sales. Now, considering all these activities, we have to see that we we develop a network diagram. Just make note of this. So possibly we have made two changes. Just accommodate those two changes and write these activities, list of activities. So first comes 1-2. How do we represent 1-2 activity? Here is 1. So activity 1-2 is nothing but setting up of the sales office. So physically, the owner has purchased that particular sales office. So this activity is over, is finishing. This activity is starting here, and this activity is the same activity is finished. So this is the ending part of the activity, correct? 1-2 organize the sales office, and it is going to take 6 days of time. So it is going to take 6 days time. Okay, 1-2 is taking 6 days time. Next, what should come next after 1-2? Next activity, if you have to see, hire the salesman, correct. So once the sales office is organized, owner himself or herself cannot do all the activities, is it right? So the salesman has to be hired for this activity. So 2-3. So we have 2-3. So we have 2-3 activity. It is hiring salesman, and it is like 4 days of time. Okay. So 2-3. Now 2-3 starts on the 6th day. This is called as a node. Okay. If anyone has not understood this, you can stop me and you can ask the question. If the notes is required for this step, I will give, but you have to tell whether it is required or not. Is the notes required for this particular step, what we did just now? So,
No, sir.
is it required? No.
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. So, only one student says yes. Remaining are telling no. So what we will do is possibly, since this is the first example, I will just make a note of the notes right below this particular step. This is not the complete network diagram. This is just one step. Okay, so activity 1 starts at node 1. Activity 1 ends at okay. So this activity 1 takes 6 days time. So this activity is what it is called as setting up of sales office. Okay, node actually doesn't represent anything. It only represents start and end of an activity. Okay, so we'll just go for the next. Yes,
Yes, sir.
yes. 1-2 was done. Activity 1 days of time. So once setting up of office is over, next activity is hiring of the salesman. So it was 2-3. And how many days it took? How many days did hiring of activity?
4 days.
4,
days.
correct, 4 days, right? So it is mentioned in the question. It is taking 4 days of time. That's right. Is it right? So do you see the interrelationship here? Only if this activity finishes, only if the office is set up, only then we can start the next activity. Correct? So you can just write here activity 2 starts at node 2. Okay. Only after the office is set up, we can start hiring the salesman. Okay. Therefore, it starts, or this activity starts from node 2. Okay. Therefore, this activity starts from node 2. Okay. So likewise, we have to just go on joining all the nodes. We have to finish the network diagram. Okay. So possibly the last node should be 5. All the activities will finish towards. Yes, if anyone feels that I'm just writing a little bit faster, you can just ask me to go back. Yes, so this is done. What is the next activity once the hiring of salesman is being done?
Training of salesman.
Training of salesman, that's right, and it is taking 7 days time. That's right. And starting at the ending node of this activity, P dash, correct, P dash 4. So all in one line. Every activity is depending on the other. Now in the examination, you need not have to draw it again and again. One single network is sufficient. Since this is the first problem, I'm drawing it again and again. P dash. So this is the next activity. Possibly from here onwards, directly start this activity. What was the first activity duration? Anyone?
6 days.
6 days, sir.
6 days. What was the next activity duration?
4 days.
4 days.
4 days. After that is
7 days.
7 days.
Correct. What about the last 4-5?
3 days.
How much? 8,
3 days.
6 days,
3.
3
3
days,
days.
3 days. Correct. Uh, yes, right. Correct. Now, once this is done, simultaneously, what will happen is this owner wants to start another activity. What is that activity here? Can anyone tell? Advertising campaign. The owner is also thinking about the advertising campaigns. So what is the node here? Starting node for
Sir, that node is from 3, sir.
3, not from
Select
2.
advertise agency.
Okay, once the correct. So that is from 3. Right. Correct. That's right. So once the salesmen are hired, possibly they want to start selection of campaign, selection of advertising campaign. So So it is 3 dash. So if you see here, what is it? 3 dash 6, is it right?
6, sir.
3 dash 6, and what is the total
And the
duration for this?
duration is 2 days, sir.
2 days. Correct. Next, 6 dash 7.
4 days.
4 days. If anyone is not understanding, you have to stop and you have to ask. If anyone has not understood this, you have to stop and you have to ask questions, because this is the online class and I will know the status of understanding. And the last activity is what?
7 to 4, sir.
10 days.
7 to 4,
Yes, sir.
and it is taking 10 days. 10 days. All right. So, has everyone understood this particular network diagram?
Yes, sir.
So, can anyone tell what is the advantage of drawing this network diagram?
So easy to understand.
Easy to understand, correct? Any other advantages of drawing this project network? Yes.
Helps us
Yes.
what to do next.
No, I did not get.
It helps a person to understand like what to do next, what activity should be done next.
Correct. What activity has to be done next? We can easily understand, and the project manager can control the activities correctly. Yes, that is right. Basically, if you have to see, one of the advantage here is you can start the activity simultaneously. So otherwise, here you have already listed the activities, but also you know which two activities are being done simultaneously. So for the project manager, it is very much easy to understand and also to communicate to others as to which two activities will be simultaneously, and also what is the relationship between the activities, correct? And also whether the project is simple or complex, that also can be made out using the project manager. So once this is being done, each of the activities are being broken down. Okay, so not discussed in this particular in syllabus, but each of the
Sir,
yes.
sir, I had a doubt. Sir, why the last node is 7 to 4?
Yes, I think 7-4 possibly.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So here, whatever numbers I have used, possibly there is a mistake in that, but there is nothing wrong in using the numbers. See, for example, if it is 7 and if it is if this number is less than that, there is nothing wrong in it. Are you getting this? But in the following examples, possibly the sequences will be right. Are you getting this? But here,
Yes, sir.
here the sequences of numbers possibly, I have jumbled it a little bit. Why? Because the problem which I have here has nearly 10 to 12 activities, and completing all the 10 to 12 activities will be difficult in one class. So, and also drawing the network in the first class itself, if I'm using many activities, it would not be fair. So that is the reason I reduce the activities. But while reducing these activities, possibly I could not take care about this sequence of numbers. Okay, is it fine? But otherwise, there is nothing wrong in using the sequence of the numbers in this fashion also. This is also right. So if 7 is
Okay,
here,
sir.
if 7 is here and 5 is here, there is nothing wrong in it. Okay.
So when we draw a network, do we have to mention days over there? Like if we write 6 is fine or 6 days is mandatory?
6 is fine. That is okay. Now here,
Okay, sir.
if you write only 6, that is sufficient. 6 days is
Okay,
written
sir.
only for understanding purpose. This is the first problem. That is the reason.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise, this is optional. This is optional. You can mention days if you require, or else only if you mention 6, that is sufficient.
Yes, sir. So just now you gave us the problem, no, sir, this particular one. I mean the example one. In the
Correct.
same way, the questions will be asked in the exam.
Yes, it will be in the
Okay,
same
sir.
manner itself. They will be. Let's go back to the question statement.
Okay, sir.
Yes. So the question statement will be like this. They will be. The first column will be about the activity. Second column will be description, and the third column will be duration.
Okay, sir.
Yes, one of the question here is the explanation needed for each of the diagram? No, not required. For the examination, if the question is only to determine the network diagram, let us assume that the question is to the question what they have asked is only to draw the network diagram, correct? So only this is the question. Is it right? Now all these steps are not required. The steps mentioned here, as well as here, as well as here. Yes, so this is required. This is the final solution. This is the final solution, and only this is required. Okay, correct. And if you draw this diagram, that is sufficient. Yes. So any other doubts? Yes. So you need not have to make note of this. Whatever calculation I'm telling right now, this is just for our understanding, just to save in actual what is the advantage of drawing the network diagram. So can you just sum up all these things and can you tell me what is the total duration? Add all these things. 6 plus 4 plus 7.
20 days.
36, sir.
How much? 6 plus 4 plus 7.
36.
6.
36 days.
36, sir.
36 days. Correct. Now, according to this network diagram, what is the project duration? Yes. So this is the project duration. Now, the question statement is only to draw the network diagram, right? Now, let us assume that we'll consider the second example. The second example is we have to determine the project completion duration. So write the second example. Write example 2. Example 2. Determine project completion duration. That means what? Total duration the project will take. That means right from setting up of the sales office until the sales gets completed. What is the total duration taken? Correct. So this is something required. So what is the solution? Now using the project network, we have to determine that. So two different paths are there. One is 1 dash 2 dash 3 dash 4 dash. Correct. So here important thing is the starting node and the ending node. So right from the starting node to the ending node, what are the different paths possible that we have to write? Any doubts here?
No, sir.
So what is the another path possible here? Anyone?
It's 3674, I guess.
It has to start from 1 dash 2 dash
3, 6, 7, 4, 10. 4,
Correct.
5.
6, 7, 4, 5. That's right. And what is the path duration for this? 1 dash 2, how much is the path duration?
20 days.
20 days, because 6 plus 4 plus 7 plus 3. And this should be 6 plus 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 10 plus. If there is any doubts, you have to stop and you have to ask.
Sir, for the second part, why do we have to include 1 and 2, sir?
Yes, here, because right from the beginning, always remember that the path should include the starting node as well as the ending node. Always. First and the last node, first and the last. That means what? The project actually can be completed in two different manners. In the first manner, actually only the project hiring is being the hiring process is being done, employees hiring process. And in the second process, only the advertising campaign, how much time duration it will take. And for both things to happen, the previous two activities are required. Is it right? So even if you have to start the hiring process,
Yes, sir.
setting up of the office is required, and second activity is required. And similar thing with advertising. If the company has to start with advertising campaign, the setting up of office and the second activity is required. That is the reason the first and the last node is required for almost all the paths. So you have to take care that you have to see that the first and the last node is mentioned in each path.
Okay, sir.
Yes, any clarification required for this? Notes is required for this?
Yes.
It is required, is it? So what we'll do is, possibly it is time right now. We'll continue this in the next class. Just remember me. We'll start by giving notes for me. Okay. Then we'll start with the simplifying this.
Okay,
Alright.
sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.